How do LGBTQ plus artists navigate music theory's rigid norms, stay true to their identities, and safeguard their mental health, all while trying to make a living in a tough indie environment? And honestly, why is that significant? Well, because the indie scene is often painted as boundary pushing and accepting, but under the surface you've got these structural pressures and theoretical expectations that make it really challenging for queer musicians to thrive authentically, especially without burning out. Now, before I get way ahead of myself, let me neutralize things here. I'm laying out what Burton discusses, not telling you this is exactly how every LGBTQ plus musician feels, or every problem in the industry. Just keep that exploratory spirit in mind, okay? Alright, Burton kicks off by highlighting how, even though musical creativity gets celebrated as free and expressive, it's actually shaped by a ton of historical and structural rules. Think music theory and genre conventions. If you're a queer indie musician, you're dealing not only with the standard, be innovative but not too weird industry demands, but also questions about how visible you should be. Too much challenge to musical norms, and the industry may shove you to the margins, but blend in and your queer identity risks getting erased. Yikes. Talk about a double-bind Burton draws on the work of Frith and Auslander to explore the idea of authenticity in music and performance. Like, what does it mean to be authentic as an artist when even raw performances are shaped by industry trends? For LGBTQ plus musicians, that so-called performance of authenticity gets really complicated. If they express their queerness openly, it's seen as politicized or niche, but if they downplay it, their contribution to LGBTQ plus visibility gets, overlooked. Now, methods-wise, Burton doesn't do fieldwork or experiments, but instead blends theory and cultural analysis, which, can feel a little abstract. But there are some very tangible ideas. For instance, the paper points out that indie LGBTQ plus artists often feel steered towards certain genres, like electropop or hyperpop, as if there's such a thing as a queer sound. I mean, have you ever caught yourself expecting certain music to sound a certain way because of who's making it? We all do it. That's part of what Burton's writing about, these invisible rules that shape creative expression. It gets tricky too. Burton talks about structural legibility. Basically, if an LGBTQ plus artist is too inventive with rhythm or harmony, their music might get ignored by critics or theorists who focus on old-school harmony stuff. But if they just copy traditional forms, they risk either erasure or tokenization. There's this whole spectrum between radical self-expression and, in a way, commercial survival. That tension is so real. Where this gets super important or concerning is mental health. Burton references studies showing that musicians in general already face higher rates of anxiety and depression, but that it's even more pronounced in LGBTQ plus circles. There's pressure to constantly innovate, to stay visible, to navigate social media, and relentless touring. It can lead to creative burnout, isolation, even career abandonment. If you know someone in the arts, you've probably seen glimpses of this, yeah? It's not just about making music, it's about surviving, emotionally and financially. So, what does the paper say about moving forward? Burton argues for, expanding the ways we talk about and analyze music, so it isn't just about traditional harmony or structure. The call is for industry and academia to recognize and support innovation, especially from queer musicians, and maybe, just possibly, rethink the expectations we put on those artists. Making space for diversity in musical narratives, not just diversity in who's making the music, by the way. This whole discussion about authenticity, visibility, and theory, it kind of reminds me of that time I tried to bake sourdough bread during the pandemic. I spent weeks measuring, following all these complicated steps, trying for that authentic result, and in the end it was edible, but not like Instagram material. I guess authenticity is tricky whether you're baking or making art. Anyway, just to wrap up, Burton's work reminds us that academic research gives us just one perspective, not the final word. If you're a listener who loves indie music, or if you're involved in the scene yourself, maybe use these insights to think about how we support each other, what expectations we hold, how we talk about authenticity, and honestly, how well we're looking after the artists we admire. No single paper tells the whole story, but every good commentary prompts us to reflect a bit deeper. Thanks for joining me on In Depth with Academia. I hope this left you with some questions, maybe even inspired you to listen more closely or just to be a little kinder to the folks behind your favourite songs. As always, I'm just here to present. You make up your own mind. Until next time.